Oh, trust me, it was. She didn't answer her phone. Hey, you.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm awesome.
There's a different color.
It always is. Gotta keep you guessing.
We just happen to be, I just happen to sit down there sitting down. All these guys I know come from somehow. Making sure. Yeah.
How's the temperature? It is. Too warm?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, cool. Yeah, that'd be great. I mean,
Good evening, and it's wonderful to be in the King's English, the greatest bookstore west of the Mississippi, maybe even east of the Mississippi. And I think I had the first house account here in 1970 something or other, and I still think I haven't paid it off. That's a good bookstore. Keeping in the tradition of the West's finest environmental writers, Max Werner is a keen observer of the natural world and our responsibility to be fully engaged in a conversation with ourselves and with our own landscape. Each essay in Black River Dreams is compelling on many levels. First, there is the exquisite poetic prose Mr. Werner brings to each campaign into the backwater streams and rivers of the West, followed by the exacting eye of a botanist, ecologist, and anthropologist, and finally, woven through these pages by a master storyteller, the tattooed ink of the tale that demands that we pay attention. Fly fishing is simply the vehicle for Max Werner to create an inner dialogue that is not coquettish when it comes to life's difficult stories. Life, death, lost friends, and intensely private moments of his own life are made public to the reader, blemishes and all. Max's memories are etched deeply into the river's teeth, creating a union of blood and earth in the most ancient and holy ritual of the retelling of the hunt. Max's writings sings to us in the deep chorus of rivers and landscape. It is by no accident Mr. Werner is here tonight. Black River Dreams will be the first, I sense, of many books to be read at the King's English. This collection of essays won the 2008 Utah Arts Council Award for Nonfiction and was the runner-up for the prestigious Robert Traver Fly Fishing Writing Award. Please welcome my friend, my colleague, and my fishing partner, Max Werner, to the King's English.
Excuse me. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for showing up. And my hope is that, oh no, listen to this.
Attaboy.
You know, it's only been within the last hour or so that this is, I mean, I was just talking with my in-laws this evening, and I'm sure you'll agree it was nothing like it is now. So I can only speculate as to what's going on in me, nervousness or what have you. Thanks to Jeff Metcalf and the good people here at King's English for hosting this reading. I appreciate it. Tonight what I wanted to do was, if you can endure my voice, is to begin by reading the preface of the book, because I think that, hey Steve, I think that it does a good job of giving you a sense of the book's overarching concerns. And then once I've done that, I'm going to read an essay titled Angler's Ball, which, as Jeff had alluded to, was the runner-up for the Traver Award. And then if it happens that we have time and the interest to have a dialogue afterward, I'd be happy to take any questions or comments that you have. So, the preface. Assuming we give our lives to what we love, fly fishing clearly ranks near the top of my list. In a good year, I probably spend 150 days on the water. And when I am not fly fishing, I do the next best thing. I write about fly fishing. Apart from the fact that I could not sit down and pick away at the keyboard for 12 hours straight, these two activities are fairly similar. They are work done joyfully. I'm sure there are many reasons, some shallow, some deep, for why this is, but in either case I get to celebrate the life I love. Of course, the angling life encompasses a great deal and touches many subjects, but at the heart of this life are the places where trout live. I have lived in the West for almost 30 years, and during this time I have fished many lakes, streams, and rivers in Utah and Arizona. These are now my home waters. What is also true is that day calls to day and place calls to place when it comes to time spent on the water, which is why I've also included 2 pieces about fishing in Maine, where I spent the first 11 years of my life, and 1 piece about some freshwater fishing I did while visiting the island of Kauai. Sometimes the best way to appreciate one's home water is to leave it. Apart from these exceptions, these essays ponder Western waters, but this isn't a guidebook, at least not in the traditional sense. How we feel about the watery earth and its creatures depends on our understanding. This understanding is very much like a drift boat that carries us down a great river. The river changes, but the boat remains unchanged much of the time. Excuse me. Usually, our day-to-day lives flow by unbroken, but then, as we grow older, we run aground or float lazily through the shade of ancient trees, and we are unsettled by the sublimity of life. We may then decide to change our lives. I think of Norman Maclean's little book, A River Runs Through It, which is an exquisite exposition of human fragility, natural beauty, and loss. Maclean shows us that most of our insights come through the contemplation and appreciation of small things, the smell of the leaves, the direction of the wind, and what is left unsaid between loved ones. I too know the details, the stonefly husks, bird tracks, what strong wind does to water. I see how the auburn leaves curl and fill with light and shadow, and how, once fallen, they collect rain and temporarily fulfill the small creatures of the world. But I'm not just a record keeper or a transcriber of the moment. I read the water, land, and sky, and then reveal the weather in my head. As I later say in Green River, a memoir, too often we take our stories to the river rather than from it. That is, for better or worse, we impose our perspectives. This tendency to interpret the environment is universal, of course. Humans do it, trout do it, mayflies do it. Not in precisely the same way, but we all have to interpret our world in order to live in it. Over time, these interpretations become codified into stories, which are as basic to humans as facing upriver is to trout. Fortunately, humans and other animals also enjoy some variation. For the trout, this may mean eating a hatchling that has fallen into the water. And what angler doesn't like to fish or to read about fishing new water from time to time? Occasionally, we want to be stunned by a new version of the riverine and cosmic story. This need for This need for variety may help to explain how I can enjoy the mysticism I find in Maclean as much as I savor the biological realism I find in Hemingway. Obviously, many writers, men and women both, have made significant contributions to a healthy and remarkably stratified body of fishing literature. I have singled out these writers because I identify with their differing visions, and because together they form the water that my book tends to inhabit. I have arranged these essays roughly in the order they were written and grouped them into 3 parts. Part 1, The Haunting, consists of essays written at a time in my life when I was much more prone to mystical interpretations of the natural world. Under the spell of the inexplicable, I enjoyed a kind of numinous inebriation, as though of ethereal microbrew I had drunk and walked the moonlit banks, sidecasting to the rising faces of the long dead and trout made of fog. It was a strange, happy, and anxious time. After 32 years of inhabiting the self-stylized realm of my own subjectivity, I met a deep-sea fisherman and professor of American literature by the name of Bert Bender. Shortly thereafter, I enrolled in Bert's Ecology and 20th Century American Literature course and experienced a kind of reverse religious conversion or enlightenment, as if I had been awakened not to some celestial calling, but to the recognition of humanity's place within what Charles Darwin described as the community of common descent.